Keanu Reeves was just grabbing a coffee until a quiet boy in torn shoes whispered, "It's for my sister." That one sentence shattered him and set off a chain of events that would change countless lives. But what the boy said next left Keanu absolutely speechless. Before we continue this incredible story, let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy stories like this, subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow we have another inspiring story you won't want to miss. The sun pressed down on Los Angeles like a heavy hand, turning the sidewalks into shimmering sheets of heat. Even the air felt tired, dragging itself through the narrow parking lot of a rundown strip mall. Keanu Reeves pulled his motorcycle into one of the faded parking spaces, the engine ticking softly as it cooled. He lifted his helmet, letting the warm air wash across his face. He had been filming since sunrise. His assistant had offered to bring lunch to the set, but Keanu refused. He needed a quiet moment in the real world. No cameras, no lights, just a simple coffee and a sandwich from a small shop that smelled like fresh bread and old wooden shelves. He pushed open the door to the strip mall walkway, planning to head straight into the corner cafe. But something tugged at his attention before he reached the entrance. A small figure sat on the concrete just outside the convenience store. At first glance, Keanu thought the boy was simply resting in the shade. But as he looked closer, the stillness of the child's posture felt heavy, not relaxed, waiting, hoping. The boy could not have been older than 10. His clothes were tattered and faded from too many days in the sun. His knees poked through holes in his jeans. His sneakers were so worn that the fabric near the toes had peeled away. They looked at least 2 sizes too small. His hair was dark and messy, as though he had tried to comb it himself without much success. But none of that was what made Keanu stop walking. It was the boy's eyes. They were steady, determined, quietly brave in a way that no child should have to be. He did not look away when Keanu noticed him. He did not shrink back or try to hide his sign. He simply held it up a little higher, as if giving the world one last chance to pay attention. The sign was a piece of torn cardboard. The writing was uneven, done with a blue marker that was running out of ink. But the words were clear enough to hit Keanu like a punch. Need help. Sister, hungry. Mom, sick. Keanu froze. The noise of the parking lot faded. For a moment, all he could see was this small boy sitting alone under a sun that had no mercy, holding a plea that was far too heavy for his young hands. Keanu stepped closer. The boy watched him cautiously, not with fear, but with the guarded expression of someone who has asked for help many times and learned not to expect much. His posture stayed still, almost rigid, as if moving too quickly might break whatever fragile hope he had left. Keanu's heart tightened. He remembered moments in his own childhood when things felt uncertain, unstable, frightening in a way he could not understand at the time. He knew what it felt like to want someone to notice, someone to care, someone to say it was going to be all right. The boy lowered his eyes for a second, then lifted them again as if bracing himself. He did not speak. He simply waited. Keanu knew that silence. It was the silence of someone hoping for a miracle, but preparing to be disappointed. Keanu took another slow step forward. He felt the weight of the boy's loneliness long before he heard a single word. It pulled at him, urging him to stop everything else he planned to do. Lunch could wait. Coffee could wait. This child could not. He crouched down slightly, leveling his gaze with the boy's. The heat radiated from the pavement, but Keanu barely felt it. All he saw was the courage in this small, quiet face, and the beginning of something he did not yet understand. Keanu stayed crouched in front of the boy, letting the moment breathe before he spoke. The parking lot was loud with distant traffic and the hum of an old air conditioner above the convenience store. Yet the space between them felt strangely quiet. The boy held the cardboard sign with both hands, gripping it tightly as though it might slip away if he loosened his fingers even a little. His knees were pulled close to his chest, and the oversized shirt he wore hung off one shoulder like it had survived many hands before his. "What is your name?" Keanu asked gently. His voice carried no pressure, only warmth. The boy hesitated, his lips parting, but no sound coming out at first. Then he answered softly, Noah. The name settled in the air with a kind of fragile strength. Keanu repeated it to himself silently. Noah. A name that fit the quiet bravery in the boy's eyes. Keanu nodded once, slow and steady, as if acknowledging something important. Are you out here by yourself? Noah looked down at his hands. The cardboard sign wobbled slightly. My sister is hungry, he said. My mom is sick. I just want to help. There was no tremble in his voice, no plea for pity. Just a simple truth, spoken with the maturity of someone carrying far more responsibility than his age should allow. Keanu felt an ache rise in his chest. This was not the kind of hardship a child should know. He studied Noah's face more closely. A faint shadow lay beneath his eyes, the kind that comes from too many nights awake, listening for someone breathing in the next room. How long have you been sitting here? Keanu asked. A while, Noah replied. People are busy. They do not always see me. It is okay. Noah said it like he had already decided he did not deserve to be seen. The innocence of that acceptance struck Keanu harder than anything else. Fame had often made him crave invisibility, but here was a boy who had become invisible for reasons no child should ever face. Keanu took a calm breath, not wanting Noah to sense the weight he felt. Did you eat today? Noah shook his head. It is fine. I want to get something for my sister first. She has not eaten much. She says she is not hungry, but she gets quiet when her stomach hurts. Keanu's hands curled slightly at his sides. He knew that kind of quiet, the kind people use to protect someone else from worry, the kind that children use when they are trying to be stronger than their small bodies allow. He shifted his posture, settling fully onto the ground so Noah would not feel intimidated by an adult looming above him. Would you let me help you with something to eat? He asked. Maybe something for your sister, too. Noah hesitated. His fingers tightened around the cardboard edge. I do not want anything fancy, he whispered. I just want her to feel better. Keanu felt a slow warmth move through him, something like admiration mixed with heartbreak. We can get something simple, he said. Whatever you think she needs. And then maybe we can get something for you, too. Noah finally looked up. The sunlight caught the edge of his eyes, and for the first time, Keanu saw a spark that looked like hope. Small, careful, but alive. Okay, Noah said quietly. It was the beginning of a moment neither of them fully understood yet, but Keanu felt something shift in the world around them, as if the heat of the afternoon had cracked open a path that had been waiting for him to notice it. Keanu rose slowly and offered his hand. Noah stood with care, as if unsure whether this moment was truly happening. Together they walked toward the small cafe, the sun stretching their shadows across the pavement. Noah kept glancing up at Keanu, studying him with quiet curiosity, but never asking the question that flickered behind his eyes. Keanu did not rush him. He matched his steps to the boy's pace, gentle and steady. As they neared the door, Noah paused. He looked back at the spot on the concrete where he had been sitting. The cardboard sign lay against the wall, fluttering in the warm breeze. Something in his expression shifted, a mix of relief and uncertainty. Can I come back for it? He asked softly. Of course, Keanu replied. It will be here. Noah nodded and followed him inside. The cool air of the cafe brushed against their faces, carrying the smell of fresh bread and roasted coffee. Keanu felt Noah relax just a little, the tension in his shoulders easing as he stepped into the quiet space. For the first time that day, the boy looked less alone, and Keanu understood deep in his heart that this encounter was not a coincidence. It was a beginning. Inside the cafe, the cool air wrapped around them like a gentle break from the heavy heat outside. Noah looked around with wide, cautious eyes, as though he had stepped into a place he did not quite belong. The room was small, but warm, filled with the soft sounds of clinking cups and low conversation. Keanu noticed how Noah's gaze lingered on the shelves of fresh bread and pastries, not with hunger alone, but with the uncertainty of someone who rarely allowed himself to want anything. They found a small table near the window. Keanu pulled out a chair, but Noah hesitated before sitting unsure if he should. When he finally settled into the seat, he kept his hands folded tightly in his lap as if afraid to touch anything. The sight made Keanu's chest tighten. A child should not look so careful all the time. Childhood was supposed to be full of movement and laughter, not quiet worry. Keanu pulled out the chair across from him and sat down. He leaned forward slightly, making himself smaller, meeting the boy at his level. He wanted Noah to feel safe. He wanted him to feel seen. After a pause, he spoke in a soft, steady tone. "My name is Keanu." He did not add Reeves. He did not mention movies or fame. He simply offered his first name the same way anyone would when meeting someone new. It felt right. It felt honest. Noah looked up, and for a moment his eyes flickered with recognition. Not the kind that came from Hollywood, but the kind that came from hearing someone speak gently in a world that had not been gentle to him. "I am Noah," he said. Keanu repeated the name again in his mind. Noah, a child carrying the weight of far too many adult responsibilities. He let a moment pass before asking, "Can you tell me about your sign?" Noah's shoulders lifted slightly as he inhaled, then dropped again as he released the breath. "My sister is only 6. She gets hungry fast. My mom is sick right now. She cannot work, and she cannot get out of bed much." He paused, looking at the table as though searching for invisible words he had rehearsed. "I am trying to help. That is all." Keanu let the words settle before responding. The quiet around them felt almost sacred. "Where is your sister now?" he asked. "At home," Noah answered. "I made her some oatmeal this morning, but she did not eat much. She says her stomach hurts when she is hungry for too long, but I cannot leave her too long either. She gets scared." Keanu felt something inside him shift. He had known children facing hardship. He had known adults who carried silent burdens, but seeing a 10-year-old boy speaking with this kind of seriousness, with this kind of loyalty, hollowed the air around him. "Does anyone help your family?" Keanu asked gently. Noah shook his head. "We do not know many people, and the neighbors are busy. They work. They have families too." Keanu waited. He did not want to assume anything. He wanted Noah to feel free to say as much or as little as he wished. After a long pause, Noah added, "I missed school again today. I have to watch my sister when Mom is too tired. She tries to pretend she is fine, but I can tell she is not." The quiet truth of it pressed against the space between them. Noah was not complaining. He was explaining the way a child explains something that has become normal, even if it should not be. "I am sorry if I bothered anyone outside." Noah murmured, his voice dropping even lower. "I did not mean to." Keanu leaned in slightly, his voice warm and steady. "You did not bother me at all. You were brave to ask for help." Noah looked down again, but this time his expression carried something softer than before. Relief, maybe even comfort. Keanu let his voice soften even more. "Have you eaten today?" Noah shook his head. "It is okay. I am not very hungry. I want to get something for my sister first." The words struck Keanu deep. Hunger was one thing, but the instinct to put someone else first, especially at Noah's age, revealed something rare and beautiful. "We can make sure she has something good to eat," Keanu said gently. "And you too. If you are all right with that." Noah hesitated, his fingers twisted together in his lap. "I do not want you to spend too much," he whispered. Keanu smiled softly. "Let me help. We can keep it simple." Noah finally nodded, and in that moment something fragile but powerful passed between them. A beginning. A server approached their table with a polite smile, a notepad in hand. She glanced at Keanu with a flicker of surprise, then quickly shifted her attention to Noah, sensing the delicate atmosphere between them. "What can I get for you both today?" she asked softly. Noah's eyes widened at the menu she set down. The glossy pictures of sandwiches, soups, and warm pastries seemed to overwhelm him. He stared at the options without reaching for the menu, as if he were afraid to choose anything that might seem too expensive. Keanu noticed immediately and leaned closer. "Is there something you like here?" he asked gently. Noah bit the inside of his cheek. "Maybe the soup," he whispered. "If that is okay." "It is more than okay," Keanu said with a warm nod. "Would you like bread with it too?" The boy hesitated again, then nodded once. The server wrote down the order, then turned to Keanu. He gave her a simple request for a sandwich and a coffee. When she walked away, Noah exhaled a breath so subtle it barely moved his shoulders. "You do not have to be nervous," Keanu told him. "You are doing the right thing by asking for help." Noah looked down at his hands. "I do not like asking," he admitted. "I feel wrong, like I am bothering people." "You are not bothering anyone," Keanu replied. "Sometimes life gets heavy and it is okay to let someone help carry part of it." The words hung gently between them. Noah stayed quiet for a long moment. Something in his face softened, like he was letting go of a fear he had been holding for a long time. Finally, he looked up again. "My mom used to work all the time," he said. "She cleaned houses, she was always tired, but she smiled anyway. Then she got sick. She has trouble standing too long now. I try to cook for her, but I am not good at it. I burn things sometimes." His attempt at a small smile tugged painfully at Keanu's heart. Noah was trying so hard to fill a role no child should ever have to fill. "What about school?" Keanu asked softly. Noah's expression dimmed. "I have missed a lot. My teacher called once, but my mom was too tired to answer. I watch my sister when she is sick too. I do not want to leave them alone." There was no bitterness in his voice. Only responsibility, heavy responsibility for someone his age. "Do you have any family nearby?" Keanu asked. "No," Noah said quietly. "My mom's cousin used to visit, but she moved away. It has just been us for a long time, and no one in the neighborhood checks on you." Noah shook his head. "People are busy. They have their own kids. Sometimes they walk by and smile, but they cannot help much. I understand." Keanu studied him closely. The boy's maturity did not come from choice. It came from survival. That realization made something deep inside Keanu ache. Childhood was supposed to be a time of learning and play, not managing illness, hunger, and fear. The server returned with a bowl of warm soup and a small plate of bread. Noah's eyes widened again, but this time with gratitude. The smell of the soup rose gently from the bowl, filling the space between them with a kind of comfort that Noah seemed to breathe in slowly, as if he were afraid to enjoy it too quickly. "Go ahead," Keanu encouraged. "It is for you." Noah picked up the spoon with careful hands. The first small bite seemed to surprise him. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the warmth settle inside him. Then he whispered, "Thank you." Keanu watched him eat, not with pity, but with admiration. This boy had been holding his world together with nothing but love and courage. Now, finally, he had a moment to breathe. Noah finished his soup quietly, hope returning to his eyes, and nodded when Keanu offered to buy food for home. When Noah finished his soup, his face looked a little brighter, the tension around his eyes softer than before. Keanu watched him gently fold the napkin beside the empty bowl, as if making sure he left no mess behind. It was a small gesture, but one that spoke volumes about the kind of child he was: careful, responsible, always trying not to inconvenience anyone. When Keanu rose from the table, Noah followed quietly, waiting for direction, the way a child waits for the next step in a world he has learned to tiptoe through. They stepped back into the sunlight. The heat had not eased, but Noah seemed less overwhelmed by it now. Keanu looked toward the corner store, a few shops down the kind, with sun-faded posters in the windows and aisles packed close together. "Let us pick up a few things for your family," he said with a gentle tone. Noah nodded but looked unsure. "Only what we need," he whispered. "We will start there," Keanu replied, "and if we see something that might help a little more, that is all right too." The automatic door opened with a tired buzz when they entered. The air inside smelled faintly of cardboard and detergent. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The aisles were narrow and cluttered, but everything felt familiar and comforting in its own way, like a neighborhood store that had stayed alive through years of patchwork repairs and regular customers. Noah hesitated near the entrance, unsure where to begin. Keanu nodded toward the aisle of dry goods. "Why do we start with breakfast?" he asked. Something in that simple suggestion made Noah straighten slightly, as though he had been given permission to move. He led the way, stopping at the cereal shelf. His eyes scanned the boxes, not looking at the colorful images aimed at children, but the small price tags beneath them. After a moment, he reached for a simple box of plain cereal. Not the cheapest, but not extravagant. Something steady and reliable. He placed it carefully in the basket Keanu carried. "This lasts a long time," Noah said. "And my sister likes it when we add a little sugar." "What do you like?" Keanu asked. Noah blinked, surprised by the question. He looked at the cereal again, hesitating. "She likes this one." "It is fine." Keanu understood the unspoken answer. Noah did not choose for himself. He chose for others. He always chose for others. They continued down the aisle. Noah picked up canned soup, next checking the label as if making sure it would be gentle on someone who was sick. Baby wipes followed, not for a baby, but for his mother, who struggled to get up and move around. Each item was selected with thought, practicality, and quiet love. Keanu watched, moved not just by what Noah chose, but by what he did not choose. He passed by cookies without slowing down. He ignored bright boxes of snacks. He never even glanced at the candy section. These were aisles children usually drifted toward automatically. Noah walked past them like someone who had taught himself to silence want long ago. When they reached the next aisle, Keanu crouched slightly to meet Noah's eye. "You can pick something for yourself, too," he said gently. Noah shifted his weight and looked down. "I do not need anything. Really." That was not the question, Keanu said softly. Noah looked up, uncertain. "If you could pick anything you want from here, what would it be?" Keanu asked. Noah thought for a long moment. Then he gave a shy smile. "Maybe peanut butter. My sister likes it. She says it tastes like weekends." Keanu felt a small warmth spread in his chest. "Then let us get some peanut butter." Noah nodded, his smile growing just a little, and for the first time that day, it reached his eyes. Noah held the jar of peanut butter with both hands almost reverently, as if it were something rare and precious. He studied the label for a moment before placing it carefully into the basket. Keanu noticed the way he handled every item, as though it might break even the ones that were impossible to damage. It showed how mindful he had become of everything they brought home, aware that waste was a luxury his family could not afford. They moved toward the next aisle, where shelves of canned vegetables and beans lined the walls in uniform rows. Noah chose 2 cans, one of green beans and one of corn, selecting them with a quiet confidence that came from experience. "These go with anything," he said. "And my mom likes them because they are soft." Keanu nodded. "Good choice." As they continued walking, he slipped a few items into the basket when Noah was focused on something else. Apples, a bag of rice, a small box of granola bars. He did it gently, not wanting to overwhelm the boy or make him feel like he was taking too much. He simply wanted to make sure the family had more than the bare minimum. Near the end of the aisle, a display of fruit snacks caught Noah's attention. He stopped for half a second, just long enough for his eyes to rest on the bright packaging, but then he quickly looked away and kept walking. The tiny hesitation spoke volumes. It told Keanu that Noah still had the instincts of a child, even if he no longer allowed himself the indulgences of one. Keanu slowed. "Do you think your sister might like those?" he asked gently. Noah froze mid-step. He turned back toward the display, then shook his head. "They are too much. She will be okay without them. Too much for who Keanu asked." Noah hesitated again. "For you to buy." Keanu placed a hand on the edge of the shelf, keeping his voice even and warm. "I am offering because I want to, not because I feel forced, and I want your sister to have something fun too." Noah's eyes softened. She would like the strawberry ones. Keanu picked up the box and placed it in the basket. "Then that is what we will get." They continued through the store. Every few minutes, Noah checked the basket, as if to make sure nothing unnecessary slipped inside his sense of responsibility, so strong that even accepting generosity seemed like a balancing act for him. Keanu admired that, but he also wished the boy could carry a little less weight, even just for today. At the end of one aisle, they passed a small section of baked goods. Chocolate chip cookies sat in a clear plastic container, sealed with a white sticker. Keanu picked it up and held it out. What about these? Noah blinked in surprise. Cookies! You do not like cookies? Keanu asked. Noah's cheeks warmed with a shy smile. I do, but my sister likes them more. Then let us get them, Keanu said. Noah stared at the container for a moment as though evaluating whether such a thing could be justified. Then he nodded a little more freely this time. They approached the final row where basic household supplies were displayed. Noah picked out a small pack of paper towels and a bar of soap, explaining quietly that they were running low at home. Practical items, necessary items. Once again, Keanu let the boy lead the way, grateful that he trusted him enough to guide him through his family's needs. When they reached the front of the store, the basket was full but not overflowing. Everything inside was chosen with care. The kind of care that comes from love, not excess. Noah looked at the basket one more time. This is enough, he whispered. Thank you. You are welcome, Keanu said, meaning it deeply, and they stepped toward the register together. The cashier scanned each item slowly, her eyes widening when she recognized Keanu, though she respectfully said nothing. She simply packed the groceries with care, sensing the quiet importance of the moment. When they stepped outside, the sunlight hit Noah's face, making him squint. Without thinking twice, Keanu removed his worn black motorcycle hat and placed it gently on the boy's head. Noah looked up in surprise as the brim shaded his eyes. Keanu smiled softly and said, You look like you could use this more than me. For the first time, Noah stood a little taller. Outside the corner store, Noah adjusted the black motorcycle hat on his head as if it were something far more valuable than fabric and stitching. He touched the brim gently, almost afraid to crease it. Keanu watched the boy's reaction with a soft smile. The hat had been an old companion of his, worn through countless quiet rides across the city. Now seeing it on Noah, it felt as though the hat had found a new purpose. With the groceries bagged and resting comfortably in Keanu's arms, he looked down at Noah. Let me give you both a ride home, he offered. It will be faster, and you will not have to walk in this heat. Noah shook his head quickly. It is not far, he said. We can walk. I know the way. Keanu could tell the refusal came from more than preference. It came from pride. It came from the desire not to burden someone who was already helping him. So Keanu nodded gently, respecting that choice. Then I will walk with you, he said. Noah's eyes lifted in surprise. You want to walk? He asked quietly. I do, Keanu replied. Lead the way. They set off down the cracked sidewalk, passing old storefronts with sun-bleached awnings and narrow alleys that held stories no one ever told aloud. Noah walked with a careful confidence, always glancing to make sure Keanu was keeping up, though Keanu matched his pace easily. Every few steps, Noah adjusted the bag on his shoulder, even though Keanu carried the heavier one. As they walked, Noah pointed to places that had quietly shaped his world. An aging apartment complex with rust at the corners. A small alley where neighborhood kids used to play before families began moving away. A fenced-off yard where his mom once told him stories during the good seasons when her energy was still strong and laughter still floated through their home. That used to be my friend's building, Noah said, nodding toward a faded brick apartment. But they moved last year. Their mom found a better job in another town. Do you miss them? Keanu asked gently. Noah shrugged, but the movement did not hide the truth. Sometimes, but it is okay. People move a lot around here. My mom says we stay strong no matter what. Keanu studied him for a moment. And do you tell your mom everything you do in a day? He asked. Noah hesitated. His fingers tightened slightly on the strap of his small bag. Not everything, he said quietly. I do not want her to worry. She gets tired all the time. When she tries to stand too long, she has to sit again. I do not want to make her feel worse. So you protect her, Keanu said. Noah nodded. I try. The sidewalk turned a corner that opened into a long residential stretch. The houses and duplexes here were old and weathered, some with peeling paint, some with sagging porches. But each one carried a sense of life that held families together in ways more powerful than appearance alone. Noah slowed as they approached a small duplex at the end of the row. The edges of the roof were worn, the steps were slightly uneven, But the home had a warmth to it, a feeling of people who loved one another even when life was heavy. A single drawing was taped to the front window, fluttering faintly in the warm breeze. Keanu stepped closer. The drawing depicted 3 figures, a boy, a girl, and a woman, lying in bed. All of them were smiling in the picture, even though the moment it represented was clearly one of difficulty. "Is that your family?" Keanu asked softly. "Yeah," Noah said, touching the brim of his hat. "My sister drew that last night. She said it makes her feel strong." Keanu took a closer look at the drawing taped to the window. The stick figures were simple, almost childlike in their lines, but there was a tenderness in the way they were arranged. The boy stood tall, the little girl held his hand, and the mother lay in a bed with a bright sun drawn above her head. Even though she was lying down, the sun made it look as though light was shining over her, as if strength was still finding its way to her despite her condition. "It is beautiful," Keanu said softly. Noah nodded. "Emily likes drawing. She draws cards for Mom when she is too tired to sit up. She says pictures make people feel better even when medicine does not." There was wisdom in that. A child's instinct to heal through color and imagination could often say what adults struggled to express. Keanu felt a warm ache in his chest, the kind that came from seeing innocence used as comfort in a world that had given these children too much hardship too early. As they approached the small steps leading to the duplex door, Noah slowed. It was as if crossing that threshold required a moment of preparation. "My mom might be resting," he said quietly. "She gets lightheaded a lot." Keanu nodded. "We will go in gently." Noah placed a hand on the railing and stepped up. The screen door creaked when he pushed it open. Inside, the air was warm but clean, carrying faint hints of oatmeal and lavender soap. The living room was small, furnished with mismatched pieces that had clearly been collected over many years. A couch with fading fabric, a low coffee table with worn edges, shelves lined with children's drawings, and a few old family photos. It did not look like much, but it felt like a home held together by love. Noah glanced back to make sure Keanu was right behind him. When he saw the groceries in Keanu's arms, his expression softened. "Thank you," he whispered again. "You do not have to thank me every time," Keanu replied with a small smile. "I know," Noah said, "but I want to." He led Keanu through the living room toward a narrow hallway. At the end of it, a soft voice called out, faint and breathy, "Noah, is that you?" "Yes, Mom." Noah answered immediately, his voice lifting. "I am home." He hurried forward, and Keanu followed at a respectful distance. The bedroom door stood slightly open. Inside, the room was dim lit by a single lamp on a bedside table. A woman lay under a thin blanket, her face pale but kind, her eyes tired yet warm as she looked toward her son. "Hi, sweetheart," she said to Noah. "Mom, I brought some things?" Noah said, "We got food. And this is Keanu. He helped me." The woman's eyes shifted to Keanu, and she frowned slightly as though trying to recognize him through the blur of fatigue. Then a soft realization dawned on her, followed by embarrassment. "Oh my goodness," she whispered. You are..." Keanu stepped forward, gently setting the groceries down near the dresser. "Just Keanu," he said kindly. "I was in the neighborhood. Noah and I met at the store." The woman's eyes glistened. "I am sorry," she said, trying to sit up, before her strength failed her, and she sank back into the pillow. "I did not ask him to go out. Please do not think I sent him out to ask for help." "No," Keanu said immediately. "He did that because he loves you." Noah looked down, shy but proud. His mother reached for his hand, squeezing it softly. "You should not be doing so much," she whispered to him. He shook his head. "You need rest. I can help." Keanu watched the exchange silently. The room was filled with the quiet strength of a family fighting through hardship with nothing but love holding them up. In that moment, he felt deeply honored to be standing there. Noah gently released his mother's hand and turned toward the window with the drawing. "Emily made that for you," he said softly. "She said the sun means you are getting stronger." His mother smiled tiredly, tears gathering in her eyes. Keanu stepped beside Noah and looked at the picture again, understanding how much hope had been folded into its simple lines. "She is a brave little girl," he said. Noah nodded. "She tries hard." In the quiet of that small room surrounded by drawings and fading light, Keanu felt the truth settle deeply. This family was holding on with everything they had. The bedroom felt small, but warm, its walls softened by children's drawings and sunlight filtering through thin curtains. As Noah stepped closer to the bed, a soft patter of footsteps echoed down the hallway. A little girl peeked around the corner. She was about 6 years old, with tangled dark hair, wide, curious eyes, and a dress that had clearly been washed many times. She spotted Noah first, then noticed the tall man standing beside him. Her face lit up. "Noah," she whispered loudly, as if trying to keep a secret she had already forgotten was supposed to be quiet. "Is that him?" Noah nodded gently. "This is Keanu," he said. "He helped us today." The little girl stepped into the room with a mixture of shyness and sudden bravery. She walked right up to Keanu, her head tilted slightly as if studying him. She did not seem starstruck the way adults often were around him. Instead, she looked at him with the open honesty of a child trying to understand someone's heart before their name. "My name is Emily," she announced with a soft but determined voice. Keanu crouched down so he was closer to her eye level. "It is very nice to meet you, Emily," he said. Emily stared for a moment, then wrapped her arms around his leg in a hug so sudden and sincere that Keanu had to steady himself. Her grip was small but fierce, the kind of hug that came from a heart that had learned early how precious comfort could be. Behind them, Marisol let out a trembling breath. Her eyes shimmered with emotion as she watched her daughter cling to a stranger with complete trust. She placed a hand over her mouth, trying to steady herself. Emily looked up. "Noah said an angel was coming today," she whispered. "He said someone was going to help us." Keanu froze for half a second, touched in a way he had not expected. Emily was not speaking in metaphors. To her, this was truth, a simple childlike belief that good things sometimes arrived when you needed them most. He placed a gentle hand on her head. "Your brother is very brave," he said, "and very kind." Emily nodded. "He takes care of us." Marisol tried to lift herself higher in bed, wincing slightly as she shifted. "Emily, sweetheart, give him room," she murmured. Her voice was soft, but carried the exhaustion of someone who had been fighting her own body for far too long. Emily stepped back, but stayed close, one hand still gripping the blanket on Marisol's bed. Marisol looked at Keanu again, and her cheeks flushed in embarrassment. "I am so sorry," she whispered. "I did not ask Noah to go anywhere. I would never send him out like that. Please do not think I am taking advantage." Keanu stepped closer, keeping his tone calm and warm. "You did nothing wrong," he said. "Noah wanted to help. He told me he does not like to worry you." Tears filled Marisol's eyes. She blinked rapidly, trying not to let them fall. "He should not have to carry all of this," she whispered. "He is only 10. He carries it because he loves you," Keanu replied, "and because you have raised him to care." That was the truth. Keanu saw it in the way Noah moved, in the way Emily trusted so openly, in the strength Marisol held onto, even while lying sick in bed. This was a family shaped by love, not lack. Marisol pressed a hand to her chest, overwhelmed. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I do not even know what to say." "You do not have to say anything," Keanu answered. "I am just glad I met your children today." As he spoke, Emily climbed onto the edge of the bed, curling close to her mother. Noah stood beside them, his small shoulders tight with worry he tried hard to hide. In that quiet room, surrounded by drawings, thin blankets, and fragile hope, Keanu felt something shift inside him. This was where he was meant to be today. The room grew quiet for a moment, the kind of quiet that was full rather than empty. Emily rested her head on her mother's arm, humming softly as if trying to comfort Marisol with a tune only she understood. Noah stayed close too, sitting at the foot of the bed, with the seriousness of someone far older than his years. Keanu watched them, feeling the weight of their closeness, the silent communication that passed between them. This was a family that had weathered storms with nothing but love as their shelter. Marisol wiped a few tears from the corners of her eyes. "I am embarrassed," she admitted softly. "I do not like people seeing me like this. I used to be strong. I worked every day. I kept the house clean. Now I cannot even walk across the room without needing to stop." Keanu shook his head gently. "Strength does not disappear because you get sick," he said. "It changes shape, but it is still there." Marisol let out a shaky breath. "Some days I feel like I am failing my children. They give up so much because of me." "No," Keanu said, his voice firm but kind. "They are not giving anything up. They are showing who they are. Loving you is not a burden to them." Emily nodded vigorously. "We love Mom. She just needs time to get better." "And you will?" Keanu added, offering Marisol a reassuring smile. She looked down at her hands, then at the grocery bag sitting on the dresser. "You brought all of this for us?" she asked softly. "Noah chose most of it," Keanu said. "He knows exactly what each of you needs." Marisol began to cry again, but this time the tears fell gently, not from fear or shame, but from the deep relief that comes when someone finally sees the struggle you have been trying to hide. "I never wanted my children to feel hungry," she whispered. "I never wanted them to worry about me." Emily wrapped her small arms around her mother's waist. "We are okay," she said. "Noah says we are a team. Teams help each other." Keanu smiled as he watched the little girl speak with such certainty. Even fatigue could not dim the glow of her love. "I am sorry you had to meet us like this," Marisol said, turning toward Keanu. "I am not," he replied. "I am glad I met you exactly as you are." Marisol looked unexpectedly struck by those words. "Most people look away when they see us," she said quietly. "They do not mean to be cruel. They just do not know what to do." Keanu nodded. "Sometimes people do not look because they are afraid of feeling helpless, but feeling something is not the same as failing." Emily tugged gently at Keanu's sleeve. "Can you stay for a little while?" she asked. "I want to show you my drawings." Keanu smiled at her. "I would like that." She hopped off the bed and ran into the hallway. The sound of her small footsteps echoed through the house, accompanied by the rustle of paper as she searched for her artwork. In her absence, the room grew gentle again. Noah looked toward his mother, checking on her the way he always did. Marisol reached for his hand. "Thank you for today," she whispered. Noah squeezed her fingers. "I wanted you to have food," he said. "And Emily, too." "You did more than that," she answered softly. "You brought hope into the house." Keanu felt something tighten in his chest. He knew this family was hurting, but he also knew they were fighting. He could sense the fierceness of their love, a kind of love that did not break even under pressure. From the hallway, Emily called out excitedly, "I found them! I found the good ones!" And for the first time since Keanu arrived, laughter touched the edges of the room. Emily rushed back into the room with a stack of crinkled papers held tightly to her chest. She spread them out on the bed, each drawing more colorful than the last. "These are my favorites," she said proudly. Keanu leaned in, admiring each picture as if it were a masterpiece. Marisol watched with a soft smile, grateful for the moment of light inside the heaviness of their days. Noah sat quietly beside them, the tension in his shoulders easing at last. For the first time in a long while, their small home felt warm, safe, and full again. Emily settled beside Keanu with her stack of drawings spread out like treasures across the blanket. She held up each picture, carefully explaining them with the seriousness of a young artist. One showed a castle in the clouds, another showed a giant tree with branches that touched the sun, and another showed Noah holding a shield while she stood behind him, smiling. "He protects me," Emily said, "even in my dreams." Marisol's breath caught at those words, and she leaned back against her pillows. Her eyes shimmered with a mixture of pride and sadness. Noah stood near the dresser, pretending to straighten one of the grocery bags, but his ears turned a faint shade of pink. Keanu smiled gently. "Your drawings are wonderful," he told Emily. She puffed out her cheeks with pride. Then she climbed onto his lap without hesitation, resting there as if they had known each other for years instead of minutes. Keanu steadied her with one arm, touched deeply by the trust she offered so freely. Marisol watched her expression softening into something almost peaceful. "She has always been like that," she said quietly. "She loves people with her whole heart." Emily nodded, leaning against Keanu's chest. "Noah tells me stories at night," she said. "He makes up big adventures with dragons and mountains and rivers. He says the stories help me forget when my tummy hurts." Keanu looked over at Noah, who was now pretending to read a label on the canned soup. The boy lifted one shoulder in a shy shrug, as if embarrassed to be praised. "They help her sleep," Noah whispered. Marisol's voice trembled. "He should not have to do any of this," she said. "He is still just a child." But Keanu shook his head gently. "He is doing it because he loves you." Noah avoided their eyes again, but it was clear the truth of those words settled deeply in him. Keanu turned his attention back to Emily. "What kind of adventures does your brother tell you about?" he asked. Emily giggled. "He makes himself a knight, and I am a princess who can do anything. We ride horses and save Mom from the bad spells." Marisol covered her mouth with her hand, overcome with emotion. "He says we win every time," Emily added confidently. Noah finally looked up. "She likes happy endings," he said. "And you give them to her," Keanu replied. The boy's eyes lowered, and he nodded quietly. A gentle silence filled the room, the kind that made even the air feel softer. Keanu looked between the children and their mother, taking in the gravity of the bond they shared. This was not a home defined by hardship, though hardship lived here. It was a home defined by love. After a moment, Noah stepped out of the room without a word. Keanu watched him go, unsure at first where the boy was heading. Emily continued rearranging her drawings, humming softly. Marisol rested her gaze on the ceiling, breathing slowly through the ache that had settled in her chest. A minute later, Noah returned, holding something in his hands. It was a small piece of paper folded many times until the edges had become soft. He held it out to Keanu. "I wrote this last week," he said. "What is it?" Keanu asked gently. Noah hesitated. "It is my wish list," he whispered. "For you?" Keanu asked. Noah shook his head. "No, for Emily." Those words struck the room like a quiet bell. "Do you want me to read it?" Keanu asked. Noah nodded once. Keanu unfolded the paper slowly. The handwriting was uneven, the letters large in some places and squeezed together in others. The list was simple, but each line carried the weight of a child's silent hopes. Number 1, books. Number 2, warm socks. Number 3, a real bed. The room fell silent again, but this time the silence was heavier, deeper. Keanu folded the note carefully, understanding that these were not wishes born from greed. They were wishes born from need. He placed a gentle hand on Noah's shoulder. "Thank you for showing me this," he said. Noah swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. Keanu stood. "Excuse me for a moment," he said softly. Then he stepped into the hallway and pulled out his phone. The hallway was narrow and dim, lit only by a small bulb near the ceiling. Keanu leaned against the wall, holding Noah's folded wish list in his hand. The paper was thin, worn from being opened and closed many times. It carried the touch of a boy who had spent more nights thinking about his sister's comfort than his own. Keanu felt a heaviness rise in him, the kind that came when faced with a truth both painful and inspiring. He lifted his phone and dialed a number he knew by heart. It rang twice before a familiar voice picked up. "What is going on?" the voice asked. Keanu kept his tone steady. "I need a favor," he said. "A big one." He explained the basics without revealing names or details that might intrude on the family's privacy. He described the condition of the home, the mother's illness, and the weight Noah carried. He spoke softly as he mentioned the wish list, letting the simplicity of the requests speak for themselves. There was a pause on the other end of the call. Then the voice answered, "Whatever you need, we will handle it." "Thank you," Keanu said. "I will text you the address. I want to move quickly." "We can start today," the voice replied. "Just say the word." Keanu ended the call, slipping the phone back into his pocket. He took one more moment to gather himself, breathing deeply. The hallway smelled faintly of dust and lavender detergent, a scent that felt humble and familiar. When he stepped back into the room, Emily immediately looked up from her drawings. "Are you coming back?" she asked. "I am right here," Keanu said, offering her a warm smile as he returned to his place beside the bed. She climbed back onto his lap without hesitation, as if his brief absence had been too long. Marisol studied his face quietly. "Everything all right?" she asked. Keanu nodded gently. "Everything is fine." Noah stood near the doorframe, hands tucked into his pockets. He seemed unsure whether he had done something wrong by sharing his wish list. His eyes searched Keanu's expression for reassurance. Keanu looked directly at him. "Thank you for trusting me with that," he said softly. Noah shifted his weight. "I just want her to be warm," he murmured. "She gets cold at night because she does not have a real bed. She sleeps on the couch. I sleep on the floor. We take turns with the blankets." Marisol's face tightened with emotion. "Noah," she whispered, her voice breaking, "you are not supposed to carry these things." But Noah only shrugged again, the gesture small and quiet. "It is what we have." Emily lifted her head, looking between them. "I like stories more when Noah is warm," she added matter-of-factly. "He tells them better when he is not shaking." Those words pierced the room with a mixture of innocence and truth. Keanu held Emily closer, feeling her trust settle against him, like a small weight he did not mind carrying. Marisol pressed a hand to her forehead. She looked exhausted, but she also looked like a woman trying desperately not to let her children see how frightened she truly was. "I am failing them," she whispered. "They should not have to live like this." Keanu leaned forward slightly. "You are not failing," he said. "You are fighting. You are staying here every day for them, even when your body makes it hard. That is not failure. That is love." Tears slid down her cheeks. "I just want them to have a chance," she said. "A chance to feel safe." Keanu nodded. "They will." Emily tugged on his shirt. "Can you stay for one more drawing?" she asked. He smiled. "Of course." She held up a picture she had drawn earlier. It showed 3 figures again, but this time there was a 4th standing beside them. Tall, smiling with a small hat drawn on top. "That is you," she said proudly. Keanu felt something warm settle in his chest. He had only known this family for an hour, yet it felt as if they had opened their entire world to him, and he was not about to walk away from it. Emily leaned against him, still clutching her drawing, while Noah watched quietly from the doorway. Keanu folded the wish list once more, feeling the weight of its simplicity. He rose slowly, smoothing Emily's hair. "I will be right back," he said. "I promise." Then he stepped into the hallway with purpose. The next morning arrived quietly on their street, with soft sunlight creeping over rooftops and settling against the worn paint of the duplexes. Inside the Rodriguez home, Noah was already awake. He sat at the small kitchen table, trying to fix the loose strap on Emily's backpack with a safety pin. Emily shuffled into the room with her blanket draped across her shoulders like a cape. She rubbed her eyes, still waking up, but her spirits lifted when she saw her brother. "Morning," she said, climbing into the chair beside him. Noah nodded. "Morning." They had grown used to mornings filled with worry. Some days began with an empty fridge, some days with their mother too weak to stand, but this morning carried a quiet hum in the air, a feeling neither of them had words for yet. A soft knock on the door broke the stillness. Noah froze for a moment. Visitors were rare, especially early. Emily slid off her chair, dragging her blanket behind her as she padded toward the door. Through the curtain behind the glass, Noah saw a white van parked outside. Its engine was off, and a woman in a simple uniform stood on the porch holding a clipboard. 2 men waited behind her, each standing beside large cardboard boxes stacked neatly in the van. Noah opened the door cautiously. "Good morning," the woman said with a warm smile. "Are you Noah?" He nodded slowly. "We have a delivery for your family." Emily peeked from behind Noah's shoulder, her eyes widening. "Delivery." The woman nodded again, her smile never fading. "Yes. Would it be all right if we bring these inside?" Noah hesitated. His first instinct was to refuse, They had learned to expect nothing and accept little. But then he remembered the hallway call. He remembered the quiet determination in Keanu's voice when he said he would be back. Something inside Noah unknotted itself. He stepped aside. "You can come in." The workers carried in the first box. It was long and flat, sealed neatly with heavy tape. A second worker brought in a thicker box, the kind used to ship books. A third carried 2 bags of groceries that smelled faintly of fresh fruit. Emily clapped her hands. "It smells like apples," she whispered. Noah steadied himself, unsure how to feel. Gratitude swelled in him, but uncertainty curled close behind it. These things were for them. Someone had sent them, and he knew exactly who. The woman stepped back once everything was inside. "There is more in the van," she said. "A mattress. It will take 2 of us to bring it in." Noah blinked. "A mattress." "For your sister," she said gently, "and for you." Emily's mouth dropped open. "A real bed." "Yes," the woman said warmly, "a real bed." Before Noah could respond, another car pulled up beside the van. A second woman stepped out carrying a medical bag. She approached with calm confidence, her gaze kind and steady. "Good morning," she said. "I am here to see your mother, if that is all right." This time Noah did not hesitate. "She is in her room," he said quietly. "She is sleeping, but she does not mind visitors who help." The nurse placed a soft hand on his shoulder. "I am here to help." Emily tugged on Noah's shirt. "Is this because of Keanu?" she asked. Noah nodded slowly. "I think so," the nurse smiled. "He made the call yesterday. He wanted someone to check in on your mom." Emily beamed. "He is an angel," she whispered. Noah's voice softened. "Maybe." The workers returned with the mattress, maneuvering it carefully down the hallway. Emily skipped beside them, offering instructions even though no one needed them. The bundle of her blanket bounced behind her with each step. Noah watched the scene unfold with wide eyes. It felt surreal, quiet, not chaotic like he expected help to be. There were no flashing lights, no loud voices, no cameras, just people doing what needed to be done with gentleness that matched the stillness of the morning. A ripple of change had begun, and it was only the beginning. By late afternoon, the house felt different. Not louder, not busier, simply fuller. The new mattress rested against the hallway wall, still wrapped in clear plastic. Emily had insisted on touching it at least 10 times, pressing her palm against the smooth surface, as if making sure it was real each time. Noah helped the workers move the groceries into the kitchen, organizing everything with careful precision. He kept checking the inventory, his brow furrowed in the way it always did when he wanted to make sure nothing was wasted. In the bedroom, the nurse finished checking Marisol's vitals. She spoke softly, her voice steady but comforting. "Your blood pressure is low," she said. "Your fatigue is likely from the anemia, but with proper treatment and rest, you can improve." Marisol nodded weakly. The room felt brighter than the night before. The nurse placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "We will arrange follow-up care," she said. "You are not alone in this." That sentence made tears slip silently down Marisol's cheeks. She covered her face with her hands. "Thank you," she whispered. "I have been so scared." The nurse shook her head gently. "Fear does not mean failure. It means you have been fighting." She closed her medical bag. "And it is time someone helped you fight back." As the nurse stepped into the hallway to speak briefly with Noah, she paused to look around the home. The drawings on the walls, the worn furniture, the small shoes neatly lined up near the door. "You children take good care of this place," she said. Noah nodded with quiet pride. "We try." "You are doing more than trying," she replied. "You are giving your family strength." Noah lowered his eyes, unsure how to respond to kindness that felt unfamiliar. Emily emerged from the bedroom wearing 2 mismatched socks. One was purple with yellow stars. The other was bright blue. She spun in a small circle, her blanket cape fluttering behind her. "Look at my socks," she said proudly. "They are perfect." The nurse laughed softly. "They look wonderful." "They are my favorite," Emily said. Then she paused, her smile widening. Purple is Keanu's favorite too, he told me. Noah softened at her excitement. Do not run, he said gently. Mom is resting. Emily slowed her steps, but her joy did not fade. The workers finished installing the mattress in the children's room. It fit perfectly in the corner where a stack of blankets used to be folded. Emily squealed with delight and jumped onto it before Noah could stop her. The plastic crinkled under her, and she rolled around laughing. It is so soft, she shouted. Noah tugged her back up gently. You have to wait. It is still covered. But it is soft, she repeated, as if the softness alone justified everything. When the workers left, the house grew quiet again. Not empty quiet, a peaceful quiet, the kind that settles in when hope takes its first deep breath. As evening approached, Noah stood by the living room window. The sun dipped low, turning the sky soft orange. Emily leaned against him, still wearing the mismatched socks. They waited without saying it aloud, sensing something in the air, a feeling, maybe expectation, maybe hope. Then a familiar figure appeared on the sidewalk. Emily gasped. He came back. Noah's grip on the curtain tightened. He did not speak, but his eyes brightened in a way they had not in a very long time. Keanu Reeves walked toward their home with the same calm presence he had the day before, carrying nothing in his hands except a gentle smile. And with that simple return, the quiet ripples of change grew stronger. Keanu stepped inside, and Emily ran straight to him, lifting her foot to show off her purple sock. Did you see? They are magic, she said. Keanu knelt beside her. Purple is my favorite too, he whispered, making her beam. He settled onto the living room floor, opening one of the new books. Emily curled beside him, resting her head on his arm. Noah sat quietly across from them, wearing Keanu's hat, watching every word. His eyes glimmered with something new. Not just gratitude, not just relief, something far deeper. The beginning of belief that life could change. 3 weeks passed quietly, marked not by dramatic moments, but by small, steady changes. On the days Keanu was filming, he often found his thoughts drifting toward a little duplex in a forgotten corner of Los Angeles. He wondered how Marisol was doing with her new treatment plan. He wondered if Emily was still drawing her endless castles and brave heroes. He wondered if Noah was finally sleeping on the soft new mattress without waking to check on his mother every few hours. He did not call, he did not visit. He wanted to give them space, let the ripples settle naturally, let their lives move forward without the weight of feeling watched or indebted. But they stayed in his thoughts like quiet echoes. One afternoon, he returned home from set feeling tired but peaceful. His assistant had left the day's mail stacked neatly on the kitchen counter. Most of it was routine, scripts, requests, charity invitations. But one envelope stood out immediately. The paper was slightly wrinkled, the handwriting uneven and large. His name was written in careful block letters as if the writer had pressed down hard with each stroke. He paused, recognizing the innocence in the penmanship before he even touched the envelope. Noah. He picked it up with gentle hands, aware that whatever lay inside had been written with a child's bravery. He tore the top carefully and pulled out a folded piece of notebook paper. Along with it rested a drawing colored with bright markers that bled softly at the edges. The drawing showed a tall man with long hair standing beside a small child. They were holding hands beneath a wide yellow sun that took up half the sky. Both figures were smiling. The child wore a tiny version of the black motorcycle hat. The man stood slightly bent toward him, as if listening. Keanu traced the lines with his eyes, feeling a warmth rise in his chest. Then he unfolded the letter. Thank you for seeing me when no one else did. The words were simple, but they landed with the weight of something much larger. They were not words of gratitude alone. They were words of truth. Words from a boy who had become used to being invisible, used to adults passing by, used to carrying more than anyone realized. Keanu closed his eyes for a moment, letting the meaning settle deeply. He noticed a second smaller paper tucked behind the first. This one was written in softer handwriting, the letters round and uneven, each one decorated with a tiny heart. Emily's handwriting. When you came, the monsters went away. He held the paper, still reading it twice. then again. He pictured her small voice, her blanket cape, her mismatched socks, the bravery she carried in her drawings. He thought about the monsters she meant, not creatures with teeth and claws, but hunger, fear, the heavy silence of a sick parent, the darkness that creeps into a home when children have more responsibilities than moments of joy. Her words struck him quietly, but completely. He folded the notes with care, smoothing the creases with deliberate gentleness. These were not things to stash in a drawer or add to a box of fan letters. These were pieces of a moment that had changed him as much as it had changed them. He understood that instantly and completely. He placed the letters on the counter and stood still for a long time. The house around him felt quiet, but not empty. It felt filled with something new, something true. He walked slowly into the living room carrying the 2 handwritten notes as if they were fragile. The piano sat against the far wall, its black surface, reflecting the soft afternoon light drifting through the windows. He often used the piano to clear his mind, to let thoughts loosen into melodies when words felt heavy. Today, though, he did not sit down to play. He simply stood there, staring at the empty space above the piano where a picture frame usually rested. He picked up the frame, removed the old photograph inside, and set it gently aside. Then he unfolded Noah's drawing once more. The colors seemed even brighter now under the warm glow of the room. The sun that filled half the sky, the tiny hat on the child, the way the tall figure leaned down with quiet care. It was simple but not childish. It was honest. He placed the drawing inside the frame and closed the back carefully. It fit perfectly, as if the frame had been waiting for this very image. When he hung it back on the piano, the room looked instantly different. Not decorated, not polished, just fuller, more human. More... He set Emily's note beside the frame, resting it against a small wooden stand where he kept things that mattered. Memorabilia from sets, a few handwritten lyrics from old friends, a postcard from a fan who once told him his movies made hard nights feel softer. But somehow, Emily's short sentence carried more weight than all the rest. When you came, the monsters went away. He read the words again, feeling their innocence and their truth. She had not thanked him for gifts or groceries or socks. She thanked him for presence, for being someone who stepped into their world with gentleness instead of pity, for making a little girl feel safe for the first time in a long time. He sat at the piano, then not to play, but to breathe. His fingers hovered above the keys without pressing. The silence felt right. It felt respectful. His thoughts moved slowly, returning again and again to the image of those children standing in the doorway as the van arrived, to the way Noah's voice softened when he finally accepted help, to the way Emily hugged him without hesitation, as if she recognized something kind in him before he said a word. He closed the piano lid softly and rested his hand on the frame one last time. He did not tell anyone about the letter, not his assistant, not his friends on set, not the people who would have turned it into a headline without understanding the depth behind it. Some things were not meant for the world. Some moments belonged only to the heart that received them. And this one he knew would stay with him for the rest of his life. Months passed quietly after the letter arrived. Life returned to its normal rhythm for Keanu, or at least as normal as life could be in his world. Filming continued, meetings filled his calendar. Yet something inside him felt shifted, softened, expanded. The framed drawing on his piano was no longer just a reminder of a moment. It had become a promise. A quiet commitment to noticing the invisible, to listening when others passed by, to being present in places that rarely received kindness. One Saturday morning, he stopped by a small corner store on the edge of town. It was a simple errand, one of the few moments he still cherished for their ordinary feel. He liked buying his own snacks, his own drinks, his own small things. It grounded him, reminded him he was a person before he was a public name. As he stepped out of the store carrying a paper bag, he saw Noah waiting near the newspaper stand. The boy had grown a little. His hair was longer, his posture was straighter, more confident than when they first met, and he wore the black motorcycle hat with a sense of pride, the brim shading his eyes from the late morning sun. "You made it," Noah said with a small smile. "You told me you wanted to show me your new school book," Keanu replied. "I could not miss that." Noah held up a math workbook with neatly sharpened pencils tucked inside. "I am doing better in school now," he said. "Mom is getting stronger again. Emily keeps drawing you with a cape, but I tell her you do not need one." Keanu laughed softly. "I do not. You two are the heroes." They talked for several minutes, standing beside the store's faded brick wall. It felt natural, familiar. A conversation between two people connected by something deeper than circumstance. Neither noticed the stranger across the parking lot holding up a phone. A faint click sounded, followed by another. The person took a few more photos, squinting as they zoomed in on the tall man with long hair walking beside a small boy with a worn backpack. Then, without saying a word, they slipped back into their car and drove away. The next morning, the image appeared online. It was blurry and slightly tilted, but unmistakable. Keanu Reeves helps poor kid outside Los Angeles market. The headline traveled fast. Within hours, it spread from social platforms to blogs, then to large news outlets. Comment sections overflowed with praise speculation and stories of people who had been helped by strangers in moments they never forgot. By midday, Keanu's publicist had left 5 unread messages. His assistant forwarded requests from morning news shows, late-night hosts, and magazines. Everyone wanted to know the story. Everyone wanted a quote. Some wanted photos. Others wanted interviews. A few wanted to invite Noah and Emily onto televised segments. Keanu read the headline once more before turning off his phone. Later that afternoon, he released a brief, written statement. That moment was private. The child and his family are not a story. They are people. Please give them privacy. He said nothing more. The statement only made the public more curious, but it also made them more respectful. Instead of digging for the family's identity, people turned their attention to the deeper message behind the moment. Thousands of comments appeared online from people who said they wanted to help children in their own neighborhoods. Some wrote about growing up hungry. Others wrote about adults who saved them with small acts of kindness when they were young. The photo, blurry as it was, had become a spark. By the end of the week, several local charities reported unexpected donations. A children's shelter in East Los Angeles received enough funding to repair its leaking roof. A reading program in a low-income neighborhood received hundreds of donated books. A backpack drive that had been struggling to meet its goal suddenly overflowed with supplies. Many donations came anonymously. Some came with simple notes attached, for the kid in the photo, for the ones who feel unseen, for the little heroes. Teachers from nearby schools began posting photos of new books arriving in cardboard boxes labeled with no sender. Librarians found envelopes with gift cards slipped under their doors. A principal in a struggling district reported that an anonymous donor had paid off all outstanding lunch debts for her students. No one claimed responsibility. No organization stepped forward as the source. But people guessed. They wondered if Keanu had quietly encouraged the movement, or if the public had taken the moment into their own hands. Whatever the reason, the effect was undeniable. And the ripples continued. One Thursday morning, Keanu's assistant walked into his trailer on set, holding a stack of paperwork and a puzzled expression. "This came for you," she said. "It is from the Los Angeles Unified School District." Keanu raised an eyebrow. "That is unusual." "I have not opened it," she said, placing the envelope on the counter. "But they also left a message. They asked if you would consider visiting several underprivileged schools. They want you to talk to students about kindness and seeing others." Keanu looked at the envelope for a long moment before opening it. Inside was a typed letter from the superintendent. It spoke about the challenges many children faced. It acknowledged the photo, but emphasized that their request was not about the publicity. It was about the impact. The letter ended with a simple sentence. "Your quiet moment has reminded people that compassion can change the world. Our students need to hear that message." Keanu folded the letter slowly. He thought of Noah's small hand gripping the note he had written. He thought of Emily's drawings. He thought of Marisol's tired eyes softening when the nurse told her she was not alone. He set the letter down and nodded once. "Tell them." "Yes," he said. His assistant smiled. "I thought you would." Keanu looked toward his framed picture on the piano, sitting back at home, waiting for him. The sun in the drawing seemed to shine a little brighter every time he saw it. The ripples had reached far beyond one family, and they were still spreading. The South Los Angeles Elementary School looked like many others in the district. The paint on the walls was faded from years of sun. The playground was edged with cracks where weeds grew stubbornly. But the hallways carried a lively hum each morning, filled with children whose laughter rose above the challenges waiting outside their school doors. It was a place shaped by resilience, held together by teachers who believed in their students even when the world seemed to forget them. On an ordinary Tuesday, the principal received a brief call from Keanu's assistant. The message was simple. Keanu wanted to visit quietly. No cameras, no reporters, no announcements. Just a stop by the school to speak with students about kindness. The principal almost dropped the phone in surprise, but she kept her composure long enough to say yes, of course. Absolutely yes. She arranged for a morning assembly in the cafeteria, telling teachers to bring their fourth graders without explaining why. Rumors spread in whispers. Some of the children thought they were getting a new reading program. Others thought it was a safety talk. None of them expected what would happen. When Keanu arrived, he wore jeans, a soft black shirt, and a calm expression that blended effortlessly with the school's humble setting. Teachers greeted him quietly. The principal thanked him twice before she even walked him inside. He smiled and told her he was honored to be there. The cafeteria was buzzing when he stepped through the doors. Rows of children sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by murals painted by students over the years. Teachers lined the walls. Sunlight filtered through frosted windows, giving everything a warm glow. In the front row sat two familiar faces. Noah looked healthier, more rested. His shoulders no longer slumped from the weight he used to carry alone. He sat up straight, wearing his school uniform and the black motorcycle hat. Next to him, Emily swung her legs gently, her feet barely brushing the floor. She wore a purple sweater with tiny embroidered stars. When she saw Keanu, her entire face lit up. She didn't wave. She simply smiled in a way that made her eyes shine, as if she were seeing someone she trusted completely. The room grew quiet as the principal stepped forward. "Students, she said we have a very special guest with us today. Someone who wanted to speak to you about courage and kindness." There was no dramatic introduction, no list of accomplishments, just an invitation. Keanu walked to the center of the room and sat on a low wooden bench so he would be closer to the children's eye level. The room leaned in. "Thank you for letting me spend time with you today," he said, his voice gentle and steady. "I want to talk to you about bravery." Some students straightened at the word, others tilted their heads curiously. "But not the kind you see in movies," he continued. "Real bravery. The kind that happens in quiet places. The kind that does not need an audience." Emily listened with both hands folded in her lap, her gaze fixed completely on him. Keanu let a small smile grow. "Real courage," he said, slowly, "is a kid helping his sister when things get hard. Real courage is a little girl who keeps drawing flowers even when she is scared. Real courage is doing what is right even when no one sees it." Noah blinked, recognizing the meaning behind the words. His hand tightened slightly on the brim of his hat. Emily slowly raised her hand, her small fingers stretching as high as they could reach. The principal nodded at her to speak. Emily stood up, her purple sweater bright against the muted colors of the room. She looked around at the other fourth graders, then back at Keanu with complete certainty. "My brother is a hero," she said. A quiet murmur passed through the group. Noah's face turned red, and he lowered his head, embarrassed but deeply moved. He had never been praised in front of others. He had never been seen this way. Keanu smiled softly. "Yes," he said. "He is." Emily sat back down, satisfied, as though she had just spoken a truth the world needed to hear. Keanu continued speaking gently to the students. He talked about everyday courage. He talked about noticing classmates who sit alone, about helping someone who is struggling even if you do not know them well. He spoke about the power of listening, the strength in kindness, the way small actions ripple outward, touching lives you may never meet. You do not have to be big to be brave, he said. You do not need fame. You do not need money. You just need a heart that pays attention. Several teachers wiped their eyes quietly. Noah listened with an intensity he rarely allowed himself to show. Each word seemed to settle into him like a truth he finally believed he deserved. He had spent so long carrying fear and responsibility. Hearing someone he admired describe that same weight as bravery reshaped something inside him. When the assembly ended, the children clapped with the excitement only a room full of fourth graders could create. Keanu stayed seated as they filed past him, offering shy waves and small smiles. Some thanked him, others simply stared in awe. Emily ran up to him again. "Did you see me raise my hand?" she asked proudly. "I did," he said. "You were very brave." She nodded. "Noah is brave too." "I know," Keanu replied. Behind her, Noah approached slowly, still overwhelmed by the moment. He tugged gently at the edge of his hat. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" Keanu asked. Noah took a breath. "For telling them the truth." Keanu placed a hand on his shoulder. "You earned every word of it." The bell rang outside, echoing across the playground. Children raced toward their classrooms, leaving the cafeteria filled only with soft chatter and lingering warmth. As Keanu stood to leave, he looked once more at Noah and Emily. Their smiles were small but radiant, hopeful, certain. For the first time, they looked like children living in a world that made room for them, and he knew the ripples of this moment would reach far beyond the school walls. The cafeteria was still humming with leftover excitement from the assembly. Students were returning to their classrooms in uneven lines, chattering about the unexpected visitor and the stories he shared. But in the front section of the room, where sunlight spilled across the wooden floor, Noah and Emily remained with Keanu and the principal. The air felt quieter here, more tender, filled with the kind of silence that follows moments that matter. Emily tugged at the sleeve of Noah's shirt. "You were brave," she told him again, her eyes shimmering with pride. Noah shook his head quickly, embarrassed by the attention, but his cheeks revealed the truth. He had never been praised in a room full of people. He had certainly never been called a hero by someone he admired. The principal approached and thanked Keanu again for speaking with the students. "They will remember today for years," she said. "All of us will." Keanu nodded modestly, brushing off the compliment with a soft smile. He was not there for recognition. He was there for something quieter, something more meaningful. When the principal walked away, Keanu turned to Noah. The boy stood with his shoulders drawn inward, still adjusting to the idea that others now saw him differently. Keanu reached up and touched the brim of the hat Noah always wore, the black motorcycle hat that had once been his. It was faded now, from months of sun, slightly bent at the edges, shaped by the child who wore it with devotion. "Do you remember when I gave this to you?" Keanu asked gently. Noah nodded. "You said I needed it more." "You did," Keanu said, "and you made it into something important, something strong." Noah's brows furrowed, unsure where the conversation was going. Keanu slowly reached up and removed the hat from Noah's head. The boy stiffened with surprise. He had rarely taken it off since the day it was given to him. Without the hat, he suddenly felt exposed, as if a part of his courage had been lifted away. Emily's hand slid into his, sensing the shift. But Keanu did not stop there. He reached into the canvas bag he had brought with him and pulled out a new hat. It was similar in style, but cleaner, sturdier, with stitching that had not yet been worn by time. Noah stared at it, confused. "This one is for you," Keanu said softly. "You earned it." Noah looked back at the old hat now resting in Keanu's hand. His voice came out in a whisper. "Why take the first one back?" Keanu knelt so he was eye level with the boy. "Because this hat is no longer meant for you," he said. "You gave it meaning. You filled it with bravery. Now it is time to pass that bravery to someone else who needs it." Noah's eyes widened. "Like sharing. Like passing on courage," Keanu said. just like you shared your stories with Emily, just like you share your strength with your family. One day, someone will be scared or lonely or trying their best the way you once were. When that moment comes, you will know who needs it, and you will give them this hat." Noah swallowed hard, holding the new hat in his hands. "You trust me to do that?" "Yes," Keanu said, "because you understand what courage feels like." Emily hugged Noah's arm tightly. "You are good at giving courage," she said. For a moment, the room held nothing but stillness. A quiet pact had formed, spoken not with ceremony, but with truth. The old hat, no longer a symbol of Noah's struggle, had become a seed of hope for someone else. Noah looked down at the new hat again, turning it slowly in his hands. The fabric felt firm and warm, as if it carried its own quiet strength. He lifted it slightly toward his forehead, but paused, glancing at the old hat that now rested in Keanu's palm. "I do not know who to give it to yet," he said softly. "You do not need to know today," Keanu replied. "Courage finds its moment. You will understand when it happens." Noah nodded slowly, letting the idea settle inside him. The responsibility did not scare him. It felt like a gift, a purpose. Something he could pass forward the way kindness had once reached him. Emily stepped closer and touched the brim of the new hat. "It looks good," she whispered. "You look like a real knight now." Noah smiled at her, the kind of smile that rose slowly, as if climbing out of a place where smiles used to hide. Keanu held the old hat with gentle fingertips, lifting it slightly. "This one changed a life already," he said. "Now it can change another." The principal approached again, noticing the exchange, but not intruding. Teachers hovered quietly nearby, sensing the importance of the moment. Even the lingering students who pretended to tie their shoes or gather their backpacks sensed something meaningful was happening. Keanu placed the old hat into Noah's backpack carefully, leaving just enough of the brim sticking out so the boy could see it. "Keep it safe," he said, "because someone someday will need it the way you once did." Noah closed the zipper slowly, his movements deliberate and reverent. When he looked up, his eyes were bright with clarity. "I will know," he said. "I will feel it." "I believe you will," Keanu answered. Emily tugged at his sleeve. "Does this mean Noah is a helper now?" Keanu smiled. "He always was." Emily nodded in agreement, as if this were the most obvious truth in the world. The bell rang again, sending echoes through the cafeteria. The day was calling the students back to their routines, yet somehow nothing felt routine anymore. Noah placed the new hat on his head, adjusting it with care. This time, the brim felt lighter, not because it meant less, but because he carried more confidence beneath it. Keanu stood and looked at the two children one last time. "Thank you for letting me be here today," he said. Noah shook his head gently. "Thank you for seeing us." And with that simple exchange, the pact was sealed. Quiet, powerful, real. 2 months passed, and spring settled over the school with soft breezes and longer afternoons. The campus looked the same from the outside, but inside the classrooms, small shifts had taken place. Children who once kept to themselves now shared more easily. Teachers began weaving lessons about kindness into morning meetings. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, Noah had become a quiet anchor for the younger students. He did not try to lead. He simply moved through his days with a gentleness that drew others in. One Monday morning, a new student arrived in Noah's class. His name was Mateo, a small boy with dark curls and round glasses that kept sliding down his nose. He had moved from another country a few weeks earlier, and although he understood some English speaking, it aloud made him nervous. During introductions, his voice trembled. A few kids snickered when he mispronounced a word. The teacher redirected them immediately, but the damage lingered in Mateo's slumped shoulders. At lunch, Mateo sat alone at the end of a table, poking at the sandwich in his lunchbox. He ate slowly, keeping his eyes on the table so he would not have to see who might be watching him. Several children whispered from a few seats away. They were not cruel, just careless with their curiosity, but Mateo felt the sting all the same. Noah saw everything. He remembered exactly what it felt like to hope no one noticed him, to hope no one would ask questions, He did not know how to answer. The memory of being small and overwhelmed still lived quietly in him, even though his world had changed. And he knew, without needing to think about it, that this was the moment Keanu had told him about. Courage finds its moment. Noah picked up his tray and walked to the far end of the table. He sat down across from Mateo without saying anything at first. The other boy glanced up, startled by the sudden company. "Hi," Noah said gently. Mateo swallowed hard. "Hi." There was a long pause. Then Mateo whispered, "You do not have to sit here." "I want to," Noah replied. "I used to sit alone too." Mateo studied him, unsure whether to believe him. "Did people make fun of you?" "Sometimes," Noah answered truthfully. "Sometimes they just did not see me at all." Mateo nodded slowly. "Me too." Noah opened his lunch, a simple sandwich and apple and a pack of crackers Emily had slipped into his bag that morning. He slid the crackers across the table. "Do you like these?" he asked. Mateo's eyes brightened and he nodded. "Yes, thank you." They ate quietly at first, side by side, letting the simple comfort of company ease the weight of the day. A few kids from across the room noticed, but said nothing. Noah did not need their approval. He only cared about the boy in front of him. By the end of lunch, Mateo smiled for the first time since arriving. It was small, but it reached his eyes. Noah felt something shift inside him. He knew what he needed to do next. The next day, Mateo arrived at school looking a little more hopeful. He lingered near the classroom door, waiting for Noah without saying it aloud. When Noah walked in, Mateo's face relaxed into something that almost resembled relief. The teacher noticed the quiet bond forming and smiled softly to herself. These were the kinds of friendships that held real meaning, the kind built not out of convenience, but out of understanding. During recess, Mateo tried joining a small group playing tag, but his accent made him nervous again. When he mispronounced a word, a few children giggled. It was not meant to be cruel, but it landed sharply. Mateo froze his expression, sinking. He stepped back from the group's shoulders, folding inward. Noah saw it happen. He walked over to Mateo without hesitation. "You did great," he said. "They just do not know you yet." Mateo blinked, fighting the urge to look at the ground. "They laugh at how I talk." "They will stop," Noah said. "And even if they do not, you can still be brave." Mateo shook his head. "I do not feel brave." Noah felt the weight of those words. He remembered feeling the same. He remembered nights when he whispered stories to Emily so she would not hear the fear he carried inside. He remembered the moment Keanu knelt beside him and handed him a new hat, trusting him with a purpose. And he remembered the old hat waiting in his backpack. Without another word, he opened his bag and pulled it out. The fabric was worn, but clean. The brim carried gentle curves from Noah's hands. It was more than an accessory. It had become a symbol, a memory, a promise. Mateo stared at it, confused. "What is that?" "It is for you," Noah said quietly. "This helped me. Now it is yours." Mateo stepped back. "No," he whispered. "I cannot take your hat." "You can," Noah insisted. "It is how courage works. Someone gave it to me when I needed it. Now I am giving it to you." Mateo's eyes filled with tears. He tried to hide. His voice broke when he spoke again. "But why me?" "Because I see you," Noah said, "and I know what it feels like when people do not." The playground noise faded, as if the world had paused to listen. Mateo reached out slowly, touching the brim with trembling fingers. When he finally accepted the hat, he held it the way a child holds something precious, something rare. He placed it on his head, the brim slightly crooked, but the smile that followed was bright and real. It was the smile of someone who finally felt seen. Later that afternoon, a teacher snapped a picture of the two boys sitting together under a tree. Mateo wore the hat, proudly beaming at the camera. She sent the photo to Keanu with a short message. "I thought you should see this." Keanu opened the message quietly during a break on set. When he saw the image, his chest warmed. He typed only 3 words in reply. "He gets it." After a long pause, he added 4 more. "So does Noah." Late one evening, after the sun had dipped behind the Los Angeles skyline and the city lights began to shimmer across quiet neighborhoods, Keanu parked his car a short distance from the Rodriguez home. He carried no entourage, no cameras, no noise, just a small acoustic guitar slung over his shoulder and a gentle purpose that guided each step he took toward the familiar duplex. The air was cool and still, and the soft glow from the living room window told him the family was still awake. He knocked gently. After a few seconds, the door opened to reveal Noah, who blinked in surprise before breaking into a quiet smile. "You came," he whispered. "I did," Keanu replied softly. "Is it too late?" Noah shook his head. "Emily is still awake. Mom is resting, but she likes having company." Keanu stepped inside. The home looked different now, not in expensive ways, but in meaningful ones. The walls held new drawings, some of them framed. The kitchen shelf was stocked with neatly organized food. The air felt lighter, carrying a sense of warmth that had grown stronger over the past months. And on the couch lay a small, stuffed dog with floppy ears, the one Keanu had given Emily on his last visit. Emily peeked out from behind the couch, holding the stuffed dog close to her chest. Her face brightened instantly when she recognized him. She ran toward him with open arms, stopping only long enough to steady her grip on the toy. "You brought the guitar," she said, her voice breathy with excitement. "I did," he answered. "Thought I might play something if you want to listen." Emily nodded vigorously and hopped onto the couch, curling up in a small nest of blankets and pillows. She held the stuffed dog tightly, its soft fur pressed against her cheek. Noah sat beside her, folding his legs quietly, watching with the calm attentiveness he had developed over time. Keanu settled onto a wooden chair near the couch and rested the guitar on his knee. He strummed a few soft chords, letting the notes settle into the room like a gentle breeze. The melody he played was simple, almost lullaby-like, meant not to impress, but to soothe. Emily swayed slightly, her eyes half closed, absorbing each note as if it were a blanket made of sound. In the middle of the song, Marisol stepped into the doorway of the hallway. She leaned on the frame for support, but her face carried more color than before, more strength. Her recovery was slow, but it was real. When she saw Keanu playing, her eyes filled with gratitude that needed no words. "You should be resting," Keanu said softly when he noticed her. "I am resting," she replied, easing herself into the chair opposite him. "Music helps." He nodded and continued playing. The room felt peaceful, wrapped in the gentle harmony of the guitar and the soft breathing of two children curled close together. Moments like this were rare in their home not long ago. Moments of quiet safety. Moments without fear. When the song ended, Marisol let out a long breath. "It has been a long time since music filled this house," she said. "Thank you." Keanu smiled, placing the guitar gently on the floor. "Music belongs in every home," he said, "especially yours." Marisol leaned back in her chair, her hands folded in her lap. The soft light from the kitchen drifted over her face, revealing the fatigue still lingering beneath her recovery, but also a quiet pride that had begun to take root. She watched Emily stretch out on the couch, her breathing slowing as sleep tugged at her. The tiny stuffed dog rested beside her cheek, its ears bent slightly from constant hugging. Noah sat on the floor nearby, leaning against the couch with one arm draped protectively across his sister's legs. "I never imagined we would be here," Marisol said after a long moment. "Not like this. Not peaceful." Keanu glanced at her. "You have done more than you think," he said. "You held your family together even when things were falling apart." Marisol shook her head. "Noah held us together. He carried so much. Too much." Her voice wavered. "I thought I was being strong by not letting them see how sick I was, but all I did was make him grow up too fast." "Sometimes strength looks different than we expect," Keanu said, "and sometimes it passes from one person to another without us noticing." Marisol looked down at her hands. "He used to worry all night when I coughed. He would sit beside my bed thinking I did not hear him. And Emily, she drew pictures so she would not cry." She lifted her gaze to Keanu, tears glistening, but steady. "When you stopped that day outside the store, you changed something. Not just our situation, something inside them." Keanu sat with those words, letting them sink in. He did not know what to say. He rarely believed he was responsible for any kind of transformation. All he ever tried to do was treat people the way he wished the world would treat them. "I didn't do much," he finally replied. "I saw a boy who refused to give up, and I saw a family that deserved a chance." Marisol smiled with a softness that carried deep gratitude. "Well, that chance made its way through our neighborhood. I started volunteering at the community shelter 2 weeks ago, helping families fill out forms, organizing food bags, that sort of thing." She hesitated before adding, "I wanted to give back the way someone gave to us." Keanu nodded. "That is how it is supposed to work." Marisol laughed quietly. "Emily calls it passing the light. She tells everyone that is what you taught her." Keanu glanced at the sleeping child, her small hand curled into a fist near her cheek. "She already had the light," he said. "I just helped her see it." Noah listened in silence, absorbing every word. He lifted his eyes toward Keanu. "Will you keep visiting?" he asked, his voice small but steady. Keanu leaned forward and rested a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. "As long as you want me to," he said. For the first time that night, Noah smiled fully, the kind of smile that carried trust. The room settled into a peaceful quiet. The guitar leaned against the chair. The city hummed softly outside. And inside the Rodriguez home, hope felt like something solid, something shared, something that would continue to grow long after this night ended. The auditorium of the high school arts program buzzed with quiet anticipation. Rows of students filled the seats, some leaning forward eagerly, others whispering to their friends that they could not believe Keanu Reeves was actually here. The school was not a wealthy one. The stage curtains were faded from years of sun, and the light fixtures flickered now and then. But none of that mattered. Today meant something bigger. The students had been told that Keanu was coming to speak about creativity, resilience, and kindness. What they did not know was that he had brought someone with him. Backstage, Keanu stood beside Noah, who held a folded sheet of paper in slightly trembling hands. He wore a clean-collared shirt that Marisol had ironed the night before, and his hair was neatly brushed, though a few strands still stuck up stubbornly. He looked nervous, but grounded, like someone who had learned to breathe through things that once frightened him. "Are you ready?" Keanu asked gently. Noah looked up at him. "Kind of," he said. "What if they think my letter is silly?" "They will not," Keanu said. "They will hear your heart, and that is what matters." Noah nodded, though his fingers tightened around the paper. When the principal stepped onto the stage to introduce Keanu, the students erupted in cheers and applause. Keanu walked out slowly, offering a modest smile, placing a hand over his chest in gratitude. He thanked them for inviting him, then spoke briefly about the power of stories and how everyday moments could change a life. Then he paused. "There is someone I want you to meet," he said. The room quieted instantly. "This is Noah, and today the message is his, not mine." A soft murmur swept across the auditorium as Noah walked toward the microphone. He moved carefully, as if every step mattered. He reached the podium and unfolded the paper. His breath trembled for a moment, but he steadied himself. Keanu sat down beside him, close enough that Noah could feel his presence, like a steady anchor. Noah began to read. "My name is Noah. I used to think no one saw me. I used to think that when things were hard, you just had to hide it so you would not become a problem for other people." A hush fell over the room. The students slowed their fidgeting. Some leaned forward. "I helped my sister and my mom the best I could, but sometimes it felt like I was disappearing. Then one day, someone stopped. Someone looked at me, and because he did, my whole life changed." Noah swallowed before continuing. His hands shook slightly, but his voice grew stronger. "Mr. Keanu did not give us money. He gave us hope. He gave my sister a reason to smile again. He gave my mom a chance to get better. And he gave me his hat." A few students laughed softly at the line, not mockingly, but warmly. "But the hat was not just a hat," Noah said. "It was a reminder that I mattered." Keanu lowered his eyes, humbled by every word. Noah continued reading, unaware that several students in the audience were already wiping at their cheeks. Noah lifted his gaze from the paper long enough to see the room. Every face was fixed on him. Some students leaned so far forward that their elbows pressed into their knees. Others sat very still, hands clasped together, waiting for whatever he would say next. He had never stood in front of this many people. He had never spoken into a microphone. But somehow none of it scared him now. He looked down at the letter again. Sometimes you think your life is too small to matter, or that grown-ups have bigger things to worry about. But one person can change everything. One person can make you feel real again. A soft breath rippled across the auditorium. A few teachers exchanged glances, touched by the innocence and truth of his words. When Mr. Keanu saw me, he did not see a problem. He saw a kid who was trying. He saw my sister who needed help. He saw my mom who needed strength. He saw us. And he reminded us that hope is something you can share, like a blanket when someone is cold. Noah paused. His voice softened. Hope is something that grows when you give it away. A quiet hum of emotion moved through the crowd. Several students nodded. One girl in the front wiped her cheeks with her sleeve. Noah continued, "My mom is better now. My sister is happy again. And I learned something important. You do not have to be famous or rich to help someone. You just have to stop. You just have to notice." He let out a breath he had been holding. So, if someone in your class seems alone or scared or different, do not look away. Sit next to them. Say hello. That is how you change the world, a little at a time. He lowered the paper. The auditorium remained silent for a moment, as if the room needed to hold the stillness before breaking it. Then applause erupted. Loud, sustained, heartfelt applause. Students stood, teachers clapped with both hands. Even the principal dabbed at her eyes. Noah stepped back from the microphone, startled by the wave of sound. His cheeks flushed with a mix of pride and disbelief. He turned toward Keanu. Keanu rose from his chair, placing a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. He leaned closer so only Noah could hear him. "You did beautifully," he said. Noah looked up at him. "My hands were shaking." "Mine were too," Keanu replied, smiling. They walked toward the side of the stage together as the applause continued. A few students reached out their hands as Noah passed, wanting to high-five him, wanting to let him know they heard him. Noah hesitated at first, then returned each gesture with a shy smile. Backstage. Once the door closed behind them and the noise softened into a distant echo, Noah let out a breath that trembled with relief. "Do you think it helped anyone?" he asked. Keanu crouched beside him, meeting his eyes. "Yes," he said. "More than you know." Noah smiled small and bright. "Then maybe that is my way of passing the light." Keanu nodded. "Exactly." And for a moment, the quiet backstage hallway felt like the most important place in the world. The Quiet Courage Project began quietly, just the way Keanu intended. There was no press release, no celebrity launch, no public announcement. It started with a single conversation between Keanu and a small group of educators who understood what children in low-income neighborhoods carried on their shoulders. They talked about kids who hid their worries to protect their parents, kids who learned responsibility too early, kids who needed someone to see them the way Noah had once needed to be seen. Within a few months, the project took shape. It provided mentorship programs, art supplies, emotional support, counselors, and community workshops designed to help kids express what they often kept buried. The goal was simple: give children tools to stay hopeful even when life felt heavy. The foundation operated out of modest offices staffed by people who cared less about recognition and more about impact. Keanu funded most of it quietly, slipping in donations without attaching his name. He wanted the credit to belong to the kids. He wanted the miracles to feel like they came from the world, not from a movie star. When the project officially opened its doors, Noah's name was written on the charter. Not as a symbol or a mascot, but as a reminder. A reminder that courage often begins in the smallest places, in quiet moments, in the eyes of a child who refuses to give up. Meanwhile, life at the Rodriguez home continued to change. Marisol's health stabilized. Emily's laughter returned, and Noah, now more confident than ever, remained committed to helping others. His teachers noticed the shift first. He was the kid who volunteered to show new students around, the kid who stood up for anyone sitting alone, the kid who raised his hand when the school needed help organizing charity drives. He had grown into his role naturally, not because someone expected it, but because passing the light had become part of who he was. One evening, months after the school assembly, Keanu returned home from a long day on set. The sun had set, and the house was quiet. His assistant handed him a package that had arrived earlier in the afternoon. It was addressed in careful handwriting. Small, neat letters spelled out for Mr. Keanu. He recognized the writing instantly. Noah. Keanu carried the package to his piano, where the framed drawing from Emily still rested. He sat down, letting the silence of the room settle around him before opening the box. Inside, wrapped in soft tissue paper, lay the original black motorcycle hat, the one he had given Noah on a hot afternoon outside a corner store. The brim was worn smooth. A small patch had been sewn on one side, repaired with the clumsy but determined stitches of a child learning to sew. Despite its age, the hat remained whole. On top of it sat a folded note. Keanu lifted the paper gently and opened it. The message was short. Time to pass it on again. Someone else needs it now. He read it twice, feeling the words settle deep inside him. A simple message, but full of meaning, full of courage, full of the quiet strength that had defined Noah since the day they met. Keanu held the hat in his hands, running his fingers along the faded fabric. It carried the weight of memories, the warmth of hope, and the imprint of every moment it had helped someone feel seen. It was time. Keanu set the note down and looked again at the hat. It felt different in his hands, now heavier with history. It had traveled from one child to another, collecting pieces of their stories. It had sheltered Noah from the sun. It had comforted him on nights when he felt alone. It had shielded a new boy from shame and helped him feel brave enough to smile again. The hat was no longer just an object. It had become a vessel for something bigger than any of them. The next morning, Keanu carried the hat with him as he visited one of the Quiet Courage Project's partner schools. He had not planned anything specific. He simply felt the need to go, guided by a quiet instinct that had never misled him. The school was small and tucked between two apartment buildings. Its playground cracked in places, its fence rusted. But the children's voices were bright, echoing across the courtyard as he walked inside. A counselor greeted him warmly. "We were not expecting you today." "I know," he said. "I just wanted to stop by." The counselor smiled, used to his unplanned kindness. "There is someone I want you to meet." She led him to a small room filled with art projects taped to the walls. At a table in the corner sat a girl no older than 9. Her posture was tense, her shoulders drawn close. She was coloring a picture, pressing down so hard, the crayon threatened to snap. When she looked up, her eyes were guarded. "This is Lily," the counselor said gently. "She had a hard week." Lily did not say anything. She lowered her gaze again, pretending to focus on her drawing. Keanu sat down across from her without crowding her space. "That is a beautiful picture," he said softly. Lily hesitated before replying. "It is supposed to be my family, but I did not finish it." He nodded. "Sometimes finishing something is harder than starting it." She looked at him, then really looked at him, studying his face the way children do when deciding if someone is safe. Keanu rested the old hat on the table between them. "This hat," he said, "belonged to a very brave boy I know. Then he passed it to another boy who needed courage. And now he thinks it should go to someone else." Lily stared at the hat, her fingers inching toward the brim. "Is it for me?" she asked. "If you want it," Keanu said. Her eyes shimmered. She touched the hat gently as if afraid it might disappear. Then she pulled it into her lap, holding it the same way Noah once had. "It feels warm," she whispered. "That is because it has been passed from one brave heart to another," Keanu said. "And now it is yours." For the first time, Lily smiled, a small, quiet smile, the kind that grows slowly like dawn. The circle was complete. The courage that started on a sidewalk had found its way to yet another child, and it would keep going. The community shelter was quiet as volunteers finished cleaning up from the afternoon program. The long tables were stacked with art supplies, notebooks, and small crafts made by the children who came each week. Evening sunlight pooled through the windows, turning the walls a warm gold. Children's drawings lined one entire side of the room, taped in colorful rows. Some showed flowers, some showed families. A few showed a tall man with long hair standing beside smiling kids. The shelter director called them gratitude pictures. In the center of the room stood a small wooden stage built by volunteers. It was simple, just a platform raised a few inches above the floor. Tonight, the shelter was hosting a quiet gathering to celebrate the first full year of the Quiet Courage Project. Families, counselors, volunteers, and neighborhood children filled the chairs set up in neat rows. There was no press, no sponsors, no special lights, only people who had been touched by the work of the program and wanted to share the moment together. Keanu walked onto the stage with a gentle nod to the audience. In his hands, he carried the old motorcycle hat, the same hat he had given Noah, the same hat Noah had once passed on to Mateo, the same hat that had traveled through the hands of children who needed courage. Its brim was softened with age. The patch stitched on the side was still visible evidence of the repairs Noah had once made by hand. At the edge of the stage was a glass display case filled with drawings from children in the program. Each one represented a story, a memory, a moment when a child felt safe enough to express something they once kept inside. Some drawings were bright and bold, others were simple stick figures, but everyone felt alive with meaning. Keanu placed the hat gently on top of the display case. His hand lingered on it for a moment, as if acknowledging everything it had carried through the years. The room grew silent. Even the children in the front row sat perfectly still, sensing this was not a regular moment. Keanu turned toward the audience. His voice was calm, steady, and warm. "You do not need a cape or $1 million to be a hero," he said. "Sometimes you just need to see someone, to listen, to care." He let those words settle into the quiet. That is enough to change a life. A soft murmur of emotion moved across the room. Parents exchanged glances, some wiping their eyes. Volunteers leaned forward, listening even more intently. A few children nodded gently as if they understood the meaning perfectly. Keanu looked at the drawings behind him on the wall. He recognized several of them. Emily had drawn a bright sun and 2 children holding hands. Another child had drawn a big heart with small figures inside it. Others showed scenes of friendship, hope, and courage. All of them spoke to the same truth. People only needed permission to believe they mattered. "When I first met Noah," Keanu continued, "he was trying to hold up his whole world, and he was doing it quietly so no one would see him struggle. But what he did not know was that he was already one of the bravest people I had ever met." He looked toward the back of the room where Noah sat with his family. The boy straightened a little, but stayed humble, his hands folded in his lap. And when he shared his courage with others, Keanu said it grew. That is what courage does. That is what kindness does. The room remained silent, every pair of eyes fixed on him. Keanu stepped closer to the audience, lowering his voice, just enough that everyone leaned in to hear him clearly. "We think heroism is loud," he said. "We think it is something that happens in the spotlight, but most of the time it happens in quiet places, in small choices, in moments no one else sees." A mother in the front row nodded, holding her child's hand. A volunteer wiped away a tear. Even the restless children became still, sensing the weight of the message. Keanu continued, "Courage can look like a boy walking his sister home, or a child offering a hat to someone who feels alone. It can look like a parent trying their best on a hard day, or a stranger stopping long enough to notice someone who feels invisible." He let his eyes move across the room, meeting faces from every corner. "You do not have to fix the world," he said, "just the piece of it that is in front of you." The shelter remained silent, but it was a full silence, the kind that comes when hearts shift. Keanu stepped back toward the display case and rested his fingertips lightly on the hat one last time. "This hat has traveled through the hands of kids who needed a little courage," he said. "Now it belongs here, with all of you, as a reminder that bravery grows when we share it." The audience exhaled together, a soft release of emotion. Marisol held Emily close. Noah watched quietly, his expression thoughtful and proud. He understood the moment completely. This was the closing of one circle and the beginning of another. Keanu offered a gentle smile. "If you ever feel unseen," he said, "look around you. Someone here cares. Someone here understands. And sometimes the person who needs to be brave next might be you." A wave of applause rose through the room, not loud or frenzied, warm, genuine, the kind that fills a space without overwhelming it. Keanu stepped off the stage, joining the families and volunteers. Children rushed toward the drawings, pointing, laughing, recognizing their own artwork. The hat sat quietly atop the display case, watching over them all, like a symbol of every quiet miracle that had taken root. As the gathering drew to a close, the camera of this story turns toward the viewers at home. Have you ever had someone believe in you when you felt invisible? Or maybe you were that person for someone else. Tell us in the comments and subscribe for tomorrow's incredible story.